Hey, I'm Tom Morello, and here we are in sort of the MXR laboratories, talking today about my brand new pedal, the MXR Power 50. Here's the idea behind this thing. I have a very unique and unusual amp setup that the Power 50 emulates. It's the Marshall 2205 channel switching 50-watt head and a Peavy cabinet. And this amp I've used since 1988, and marked the settings on it a few months after I got it, and it has stayed on those settings from that day to this. I've made 21 studio albums, and that amp, that head, and that speaker's been on 21 of them. I've played considerably more than 21 shows, and that head and that speaker has been at every single one of them. So the idea is that, like with a relatively very inexpensive pedal, you can emulate the sound of that amp in your very own home through whatever cheap, mid-priced, or expensive amp you have. So we're going to demonstrate that now. I mean, first of all, this is my pedal setup. That's my amp, and it sounds like this. That's my amp, and that's my whole setup there. We've got a Fender, a Mesa, and a Vox, sort of three excellent random amps that might be ones that are in homes across the world. And now we've got the Power 50 that are going to transform those amps into the exact sound approximation of my Marshall 50-watt head. So this is the Fender without any ribbons or bows. This is just straight in the Fender amp, without the Power 50, and kaboom, kabam, let's go. Kind of sounds exactly like my amp, if I do say so myself. Let's go to the Mesa. And lastly, we've got the Vox amp. I do something which is rather unusual, is I run all of my effects through the effects loop on the Marshall 2205 head. Now, it's not because I had like some sort of genius epiphany to do that. I had always plugged, my effects directly into the amp until I had an amp that said effects loop, so I just assumed that's what you were supposed to do. And it turns out that nobody does that, but it did lead to sort of a unique relationship between the distortion that comes from the head and how it interacts with the effects pedals, which the Power 50 mimics. So it has like not just sort of the sonic qualities of the head and that particular speaker, which we've baked into it, but also the way that it interacts with effects pedals is the same way that my amp interacts with effects pedals. So one thing that I like to do when I just sort of set up with my amp sound is see what sort of riffs might be the low-hanging fruit on that particular day. So we're going to do a little riff composition live here. This is, who knows, this is a Fender. Fender sounds something like this. Let's go on. So then let's go back to my amp there. I always felt a little bit cheated as a kid when I would go through guitar magazines and I'd see some of my favorite guitar players, they'd be like hawking a different guitar like every album cycle. And so, you know, recently I did a Fender guitar that's exactly like my Soul Power guitar. The only reason I would do this is because it's exactly my guitar. That's the guitar that is on all of the Audio Slave records, you know, to a T. And so I wanted to do the same thing with my amp sound. Can we make my exact identical amp sound in a pedal? And we did. We had like this plan, we had these kind of like nice sort of 3 big amps over there that I've been playing through, and I said, you know, what if somebody like say a 9-year-old kid like my son has a 20-watt little Fender amp, what's it gonna do for them? So we went home and we got my son's 20-watt amp right there, and we plugged this thing into it, and let's just see how we do.